Kalgoorlie sits in the Goldfields Esperance region of Western Australia, some 600 kilometres inland from Perth. And it was founded in 1893 after the discovery of gold, and the town rapidly grew into a thriving city. And now it rests on the verge of the Super Pit, one of the largest open-cut gold mines in the world. And it's a town of stark contrast, this one, and the vistas offered this week at the Kalgoorlie Golf Club are no exception, with deep red earth framing succulent green fairways that this week host the TX Civil and Logistics WA PGA Championship. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Kalgoorlie Golf Club. Todd Woodbridge alongside of Ali Whittaker to take you through the next couple of days here at the WA PGA Championships. And Ali, it is my first time here in Kalgoorlie, and I've got to say, I was blown away when we got the opportunity to walk the course yesterday, and it is just magnificent. The vistas, the colours, it is beautiful.
Is there anywhere you'd rather be than this golf course at sunset? Honestly, the red dirt just starts to radiate almost against the blue sky, and it really is something that's truly special and really unique to this part of the world as well, and not a spot we usually get to see a golf event at.
No, we're certainly out there, and I've got to say, I mean, I thought the course, it's been presented so beautifully today, and the players have been loving it as well, so why don't we just take a little look at how the first couple of rounds have panned out. Well, let's recap round one of the championship. Queenslander Jake McLeod played very solid and aggressive golf in round one, making 3 birdies on both the front and the back 9. And despite a couple of blemishes on the 5th and 15th, he managed a very impressive 68. But hometown hopeful Jared Felton has never finished outside the top 10 in 4 attempts on this layout. And with an impressive 5 under opening round, it's pretty easy to see why. However, the round of the day belonged to Brad Mills, the South Australian. He executed his game plan to perfection in round one, firing a bogey-free 6 under 66 and held the overnight lead.
Yeah, it wrapped. I mean, just getting out of bed this morning, just looking to just get started the right way. Just keep it in play and let the ball fall in the hole. And today I had six birdies and no bogeys, which is what you want to do first up.
Absolutely. Sounds easy, doesn't it? In round two, some experienced golfers started to move into contention. Michael Long improving on round one, shooting a 69 on Friday to leave the veteran New Zealander at 5 under par for the championship. Victorian Josh Younger is still searching for his maiden tour win as well. He bounced back from a very disappointing 73 in the first round to right the ship with a 66. Some great golf that consisted of 7 birdies, including a hat-trick on 6, 7 and 8. And for the Tasmanian Simon Hawkes, he also matched Younger with his own 66. And there is the man, leaving him 7 under the card through the first 2 rounds with only 2 players ahead of him. And the closest of those will be Brodie Martin, the young 23-year-old Western Australia, making birdie on the last there, shooting a 68 with a highlight eagle on the 11th. At 8 under par through 2 rounds, only one man is better than what he is at this point, and that's Jared Felton. Following up his opening 67 with an equally solid 68 in round 2. A bogey on the 18th, his only blemish of the day. And he's looking to hold the type of form that carried him to the last tour victory, and that was the 2017 New Zealand PGA Championship.
It was really good. I got off to a bit of a slow start, just struggled a bit with the pace of the greens, but got the hang of it on the front 9 and made a lot of birdies, which was good to finish off.
Well, Well, there's the highlights of the opening couple of rounds, and this is what the leaderboard looked like, Ali, after the second day. Jared Felton very solid, sitting atop of it at 9 under par.
And pretty packed at the top as well, but very good for Jared to back up that round 1 67 with a 68 on day 2, debatably in harder conditions as well. So 2 68s from Brody. Martin finds him 1 shot back. And Simon Hawkes lurking as well.
Yeah, gee, he's capable of shooting some low scores, isn't he? He's had a pretty good season, 3 rounds of 64 so far throughout the tournaments that he's played. As we move on to page 2, and some names there. Sam Lee from Fiji. He was an interesting character. I read a nice article about him coming into this tournament. Never played in a desert-style links course before, so a new experience for him. And gee, there's some of the vistas and some of the magnificent shots that we're going to see throughout these next couple of days. A very scenic golf course.
It really is, and you know, I think everyone remembers what it felt like on their first trip to the outback when you haven't been. I'm a city slicker from Melbourne, so coming out to this part of the world really was quite an experience.
Well, you can see the beautiful red landscapes, and those are playing like hazards, aren't they? They're areas that you do not want to get into because there's a little we're unsure about what type of lie we're going to get in, all of that sort of stuff.
One thing we do have working in our favour this week is the weather. It's been chilly in the mornings, and then it was warming up throughout the days. But I can tell you, a couple of the blokes had 3 layers and a beanie on Thursday morning. It was Arctic. Just such clear nights.
Well, we're into a bit of live golf now, Ali, and that's the 9th hole. That's McGraw with a very solid shot into the 9th.
Nice to see a couple of players that we haven't seen a lot of coverage of as well. Daniel McGraw being one of those, Brody Martin finding his way up towards the top of the leaderboard. So it's going to be great to get to know them. And this is a man we've seen quite a bit of so far in 2018, Simon Hawkes.
Yeah, terrific win at the Victorian PGA Championships, and as I mentioned just a moment ago, capable of shooting some really low scores when he gets it going. And chatted to him this morning just before he went to the range, and he said, oh, he likes it here. It's a perfect course for his eye. He was very enthusiastic, got a lot of energy.
That sounds like Simon Hawkes to me. I'm trying to work out who he reminds me of. I think it's Mick Jagger. There's something that's almost kind of a little rock starish about his movement.
Yeah.
You know, he's a little limmy, Simon Hawkes. Yeah, and he's got that little kind of swag to his walk. He's a very entertaining character.
Well, he's currently sitting 1 under for the day, 8 under for the tournament. As we head into the back 9, and there's a lovely view of the course. So there's the bunkering, slightly different sand and so forth there than what we get when you're in the waste areas. The waste area is the local landscape, isn't it?
And it's very obvious. It's not one of those golf courses that you go in the waste areas and think, is this a bunker? You don't need to check the local rule sheet here. You just need to hit out of it and try and get it back in play.
And you were talking to me about a bit of the psychology of playing a course like this, and I was fascinated by it because you said the interesting thing is that when you look at the course, you see all the trouble because it's in bright red. It
is almost disconcerting, really, because it is so obvious where not to hit it. And sometimes when you're loosing things off the tee a little bit, it can be a real mental struggle. Important to mention that we do have the Race to the Outback in conjunction with the main event here this week, where an amateur is teed up with a pro. It was done by draw last night. There was a couple of very happy campers that got players in the top 10 thinking that they were really liking their chances.
And they'll play a Stableford format, so between the two of them, the best Stableford score counts per hole. And at the end of it all, the accumulated best Stableford will win. Pretty good too. There's some good prizes up for offer. About $3,000 worth, in fact, so plenty at stake. So big green here on the 9th.
How much will be next, Phil?
Yeah, there is, and both Daniel McGraw and Simon Hawkes have both used the slope behind the hole location to their advantage, so a chance to pick up another birdie, get to 2 under par for the day. Simon Hawkes, that would see him just 2 back from Jared Felton.
And these holes here, they're all got fantastic names, and Golden Eagle is the name of the 9th here. It's been interesting to get here because the course and the conditions change sort of quite a lot throughout the day. Early start, very cold, so the ball's not going particularly far. You get then in the early afternoon, it really heats up, so it changes. That causes the greens to change pace just a little throughout the day.
And then it gets cold again. Sunset.
And quickly.
As we see one of the amateurs here. So it's either Kevin Sullivan or Andrew Manton. And you'll have to forgive us for not knowing who is who from the amateur side of things. But it's just part and parcel of this kind of event.
So this is Daniel McGraw, the 30-year-old from Queensland. This is for birdie. 6 under after 2 rounds. And that one slips away.
Yeah, not having the best day so far. Daniel 4 over par here in round 3. Just the 4 bogeys on the card, last of which coming at the 8th hole. A common phrase I think we'll be using this week. One of the toughest holes on the golf course. But a real chance here for Simon Hawkes. Well, it was.
Yeah, until he walked away from it. He obviously slightly distracted or felt that he wasn't going to make it. I actually played with Simon a couple of months ago in Wayne Grady's Pro-Am event up at Royal Pines. Oh, there it is. Gets another one. And he was an interesting character that day, not in his best of form, but very talkative. And he was at the end of his tether, 9 under, as you can see there. He'd been on the road for a long time and he needed a break. So I think it was fair to say emotionally his game had got out of control.
He was a little drained.
I hope it wasn't me that did the draining on that day. I did feel like to the back 9 I had to become a psychologist to help him keep the form. He had such amazing form. And I didn't want him to lose it, but he's found it again here.
You're hired, Todd. I think a couple of people might look to you now for some for some support. He's certainly kicked on this year in 2018.
So as they head off the 9th green, quite a walk. They'll get transported by buggy over to the no, it's the 1st and the 18th. A big walk, isn't it? So we do have a 2T start, so we've been out watching. All right, so Ali, we're underway in round 3 and taking a look at the leaderboard. Jared Felton at 11 under par. He's made 3 birdies and a bogey, so good start for him. He's got a 1-shot lead at the moment over Brodie Martin. Who do you see on the leaderboard that's going to sort of come charging on a Saturday?
Well, I mean, Simon Hawkes, he's 66 yesterday. It was a bit of a statement in a way. We've had, I think, 3 66s so far this week, but he's really the only one that did it in the second round and launched himself up. Both of the other contenders really kind of fell by the wayside earlier in the week. But as you can see, lots of red numbers. Callan O'Reilly and Nevin Bassick also having a good day today.
Yeah, Nevin Bassick 4 under. With birdies on 4, 6, 7 and 8, so terrific front 9 for him. Callan O'Reilly owns the course record here of 64, so another good round for him at 4 under through 15, flying himself into the top 10.
Yeah, doing a little bit of a change-up this year is Callan, changing his coach. He's now working with Gary Barter out of the Australian Golf Club, and I think just everything that they've been working on starting to settle down a little bit.
And Gary Barter, he has quite a...
He's got a good stable.
Yeah, doesn't he? What? He can draw on someone playing well just about any week on any tour. Michael Long, the New Zealander, we saw in our opener there, even for the day, still at 5 under par, but always dangerous. Michael Long, he can get into contention and not afraid to lose. As in sport, it's really difficult because you often get in positions where you see people get close and they're not ready to take opportunity, but someone like Michael Long, he's won so often, it's easy to do for him.
When you look at his Vic Open win back in 2016, it was 17 years since his since his previous win, and everyone around him was all too quick to remind him of that, I think. And he won the same year that Georgia Hall won. There was a couple of comments saying that he looked a bit like her father, but
Oh dear.
he's going to come after me about that.
That's nasty. And in saying that, interesting you say that, because on his bio on the PGA Tour, he's actually born in 1900. So I think we need to fix that up.
All right. He looks pretty good for 118, I have to say.
Very well. Cameron John there, the Victorian, recently turned pro, 19 years of age, 1 under today. And in his first year playing a few of these pro events, starting to do okay too. He's notched a Pro-Am victory already in his pro career. Comes off being a former Scottish amateur champion at Gullen.
A little bit different to Gullen here.
Well, in some ways.
It really is such a stunning golf course, and you know, I know as commentators it's kind of our job to say that, but I have to say it was quite a profound moment when I came out on this golf course for the first time, and I think we drove around it last year at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's hard, and this is going to sound, you know, a little naff, but it's hard not to feel connected to the country in this part of Australia. There's just something about the outback that is so different to everywhere else.
Well, this is our final group, Ali, Brodie Martin and Jared Felton, and this is Brodie Martin, approach into 9. A 23-year-old from Western Australia, playing alongside really a teammate of his too, Jared Felton, only 23. So 2 young guns of the PGA here in Australasia.
Very much so, and Brodie's taken a little bit of a different approach to Jared in the fact that he went through his traineeship. He didn't just kind of go straight into the touring side of golf. He's out of Marangaroo here in Western Australia.
So Jared Felton's second. The 9th playing 402 metres. He's lost that one a little to the right. He won't be particularly happy. That pretty good shot by one of the amateurs there. Getting it in nice and tight.
Well, you should probably mention the 2 amateurs that are
in
this group.
I wonder
think
whether
they're worth a mention.
Whether we should too, because one of them is, of course, our major sponsor here today, and one of the reasons we're able to stay out here. We'll get back to that. We'll fill in. We've got more time to mention who those 2 great men are. We're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back with more from the TX Civil and Logistics WA PGA Championship.
Hi, I'm Damien Jordan from Coolangatta Tweedheads, and you're watching PGA TV.
golf with my dad because sometimes he hits it in the water and once when he hit it, there was a rock in the river and then the ball hit the rock and then the rock bounced the ball over the water so it didn't go in, so it went in on the green. He was very lucky and he got a double bogey.
Well, welcome back to the TX Civil Logistics WA PGA Championship, and have a look at that sky, will you? Not a single cloud. It's perfect conditions for golf. A little earlier this morning, Ali, the breeze was up ever so slightly in cool conditions, but it couldn't be better now for golf. The flags out there basically sitting limp. So this is a great opportunity for scoring here on day 3.
Probably the best scoring conditions I think we've had all week, realistically. It was cold and windy on day 1. A little bit better yesterday, but this really is the pick of the bunch so far.
We did hear a few complaints early on when we arrived about the weather. This is Jake Higginbottom, and coming into today after 2 rounds was at 5 under par, and at the moment sits at 6 under par, so 1 under par today.
Another one that's been a part of the Gary Barter stable is Jake. He's done a lot of work with him in the past.
He opened his round today with a bogey on the first, but picked up birdies on hole 6 and 8. Higginbottom playing with Josh Younger today.
One of the things I'm looking forward to, Todd, is hearing a couple of the facts that I know that you've been scraping together about Kalgoorlie. And every now and then I might just request one throughout the coverage just to see what you've got up your sleeve.
All right, give me time to get my notes out. So this is Felton for a longer range birdie, cross the green. Oh, in the jaws by the looks of it.
He's been doing a little bit of swing work so far this year and working on a couple of projects, Jared, with his coach Richie Smith, coincidentally also the coach of, well, his girlfriend, Hannah Green.
And Richie Smith, what a job he's done for WA Golf. He's just churning out good player after good player and through their state program. So this is...
That looks like Zach Rad, I think.
It does. It doesn't look like Gavin Kirkman, does it? The CEO of the PGA Tour. So that's our major sponsor and CEO here, Zach Reed, playing in the final group. But look at the technique. Very handy golfer as well.
Yeah, Zach's been travelling around ever since he kind of started his involvement in this event. He's been travelling around to a lot of the other events as well. He's a real golf fan. You couldn't find a nicer guy. He's probably one of the nicest sponsors I think you could ask for.
So here's the boss. Looking like throughout his career he's had a bit of trouble with the putting. He's got a variation of grip going there, and some evidence of it on that one too.
Martin next to play, Phil.
Oh, don't miss this one, Gavin.
No.
Oh, Steely.
No time wasted. Good stuff. From the boss, we could call him. Both players on their best behaviour today. So here's Brodie Martin with a very good chance for birdie and to get a share of the lead. And he does so. Rolls it in with a lot of confidence. So we have 2 on top of the leaderboard, Ali.
All right. We'll take it. And they stretch themselves out. They're 2 shots ahead of the rest of the field now at 11 under par. So a little buffer emerges there through 9 holes today. And a little fist pump there from Gavin.
So this is our first look at the 13th hole. And Scott Arnold and Sam Lee are on the tee. Big prize on offer here. Not today, though, Ali. Tomorrow, if you can get a hole in one, you can take home that beautiful Subaru there, sitting behind the green.
Valued at just under $40,000. So that would be handy.
Wouldn't it what?
caught up with Sam Lee as he was coming through the turn today, and he looked like a kid in a candy shop. He was so excited to be out playing golf, and I think when you are happy in your environment and have that kind of novelty factor in a way, a young lad from Fiji out in the Australian outback, it's good fun.
I was just going through as we see him take a couple of practice swings. Tomorrow, though, in fact, on this hole, and I've read it, and I've read it in an official program, that if one of the pros was to score an ace, they'll receive a gold nugget to the value of $50,000. So
over on the eighth hole, the super pit. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's on the 8th, and we're on the 13th, aren't we? Anyway.
Yeah, they get the car for this one, Todd.
That you can drive it to pick up your nugget.
Yeah, put the nugget in the passenger seat. And that is a nasty miss there for Sam. At least he has quite a bit of green to work with, but
as you can see in this shot here, a lot of the greens here have little areas and platforms to them, so you need to position your ball nicely, because there's a lot of 3-putt territory if you get out of position on the greens.
It really does. You know, cost a bit of a premium with your approach shots. Just, you're almost better off sometimes missing the green in the right section than you are putting from the wrong section around this Graham Marsh layout.
Let's take a look at the flyover of the 13th.
And why wouldn't you? It is stunning. Probably one of the flattest par threes, really, on the golf course. All of the rest seem to have a little bit more elevation change, but the whole location today, 14 metres on and 6 off the left-hand side. So just up in that little centre-left plateau, this green divided into 3 sections. This one in the middle left today.
Talked about the course designer just there, Ali Graham Marsh. The course opened back in 2010, and its full length plays at 6,768 metres, and with the potential, with plenty of land around it to extend it if they ever needed to. Lots of the holes you could move back.
Well, the original plan when Graham Marsh was signed on was for a 36-hole golf course, and a big resort as well. Sadly, early in the project, the money kind of ran out from a private donor and a private partner, and those plans were put on hold. But thankfully, enough money was found to put this golf course together. It truly is one of probably the most interesting public golf courses around Australia. As you see Scott Arnold there finding the front right section of the green. So a long putt coming up for Scott.
Yeah, it sits inside the top 20 of, I think it's at number 18 at ranked public courses in Australia. I think it would rate higher if more people could get here, because I think they would enjoy it. It's a joy to walk around. Haven't had the chance to play it yet.
Jake Higginbottom here.
So left himself with what looks like an uphill putt there.
Yeah, I presume that might be his third shot, just because I know that I was talking to Graham Scott, one of the rules officials here that's associated with the ISPS Honda PGA Tour of Australasia, and he said that he was moving a couple of the tees around. He's moved 14 as well. 17's been moved up. I think 11's playing on the number, but as you can see, yesterday it was into the wind and would have been very hard to reach, but the wind just barely a factor out there at the moment.
So Josh Younger just off the front edge with the putter in hand. A good club of choice around here. There's quite a few tight lies in the areas off the green. He's in there a little grainy at times, so putter always good.
It's a shot he's very comfortable with. Grew up on the Melbourne Sandbelt.
Yes, well, you and I both live in that area, and whenever you can, you put the putter in your hand. That's only because when my wedge bounces and hits the ball halfway up and goes flying across the other side of the green, it's a safer shot.
Yes, bad putt's better than a bad chip sometimes.
I've heard you say that.
We've all been there, believe me. So really just a little bit of homework left here for Josh. Interesting how the front of this green really does release forward. It's one of the only greens actually on the golf course where the whole putting surface runs away from the front edge. So this just slightly back up the hill.
Yeah, good putts, a couple of good top 10 finishes for Younger this year. 7th at the Oates Victorian Open and then 10th at the Coca-Cola Queensland PGA Championships in Toowoomba.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think this is for birdie.
And if so, that'll take him to 2 under par for the day. He burst on the scene, didn't he? Winning the New Zealand Open as an amateur. That was sort of big news, and then turned pro quickly after.
I think it was just 2 days later, wasn't it? How would you feel about that, not having the check?
Let's take a look at how things sit on the leaderboard, Ali. And we saw Brodie Martin make his birdie on the 9th to take a share of the lead, with Jad Felton at 11 under par. Simon Hawkes just 2 back. And a couple of players making a bit of a charge on day 3. Evan Bassick and Callan O'Reilly both at 4 under. The 2 of them, though, well through their rounds. They'll be hitting that home stretch. Difficult little stretch to finish here. 16, 17, 18, 17 along par 3 and 18 a par 5. So a birdie opportunity, but you get yourself out of position and a bogey comes into play very quickly.
I think we could say that about all 18 holes on this golf course. It's certainly easy to watch your round unravel before your eyes, but a real opportunity for Brodie Martin and Jared Felton to stretch themselves ahead of the field if they can continue to push on today here in round 3.
So he saw his tee shot. He's going to have to come up just a slight undulation right there. He comes up into the plateau. Some commentary from his amateur partner there. He must be burning the edges a little bit.
I believe that was Klaus, actually. Klaus, I think it's Klaus and Declan Fast who are out there playing with this group today.
They're 2 good outback Aussie names.
I wonder how many classes there are in
Declan,
Kalgoorlie.
I mean, we talk about Kalgoorlie. Paddy was the man that found Kalgoorlie gold, first attracted Paddy Hannon. So Declan and Paddy, they go together, good Irish names.
Very true, very true.
So this is Michael Long with a magnificent little approach pitch into the 11th, and that's a good birdie opportunity.
Lovely guy, Michael. Very approachable.
Lives in Perth nowadays. So just a 45, 50-minute flight from home for him. And that's got inside Andrew Martin with a lovely little pitch as well. So the greens, Ali, pretty receptive, and some of the players were saying a little softer than what they were last year, so they're able to control that ball nicely. This is Sam Lee.
Missed it right off the tee. So it's either a par or a bogey for Sam. We'll see if he starts smiling or not. Any fist pumps? No. Oh, Declan's giving him nothing.
We've got to think, can keep the greens a little soft in case we get a bit of wind and that up here, because this course, if you've got wind here, can play really, really difficult. It turns out, talking to Tom Powerhoran, who's made the cut here, he said the first couple of practice days the wind was down. He said, oh, this is pretty easy. You know, it's going to be really, you know, get around here, no trouble at all. Day one, cold and breezy, and things really changed. Well, this is the 10th hole, and that is the bag, I believe, Ali, of Brodie Martin.
Certainly is. Not sure if we should be zooming in on him right now. I hope he's got a club in hand. He's just behind the bushes there, but it's certainly missed this a long way right off the tee. It was a popular place last year, particularly on the final round. A lot of bailout on that right-hand side.
Well, watching some of the groups come through early this morning to the 10th, it's a decision-making hole in terms of what you take off the tee. Some players being aggressive, taking driver, trying to put it down as far as they can, and then some taking iron for placement. And if you get wayward with the driver, well, we can see what can happen.
That's pretty handy stuff there.
Yeah, good shot. That's from one of our amateurs there, Billy Burville or Damon Lottie, no? Oh, that, yes. I've got the finger already in the coverage from Ali going, no, no, no. That's our sponsor, that's Zach Reed.
Where's Gavin Kirkman? I think we're going to have a bit of a Gavin watch today. He's okay there.
I chatted to him early this morning. He was here very early. He was rather nervous. And I said, why don't you get up to the range and find the centre of the club? He said, I've only got so many that find the centre. I'm not going to waste them. So I don't even know if he went to the range.
He was actually walking up with Kim Felton, a 3-time winner of this event and now involved with Golf WA. And you know, a big part of this tournament, but he'd asked Kim for a bit of a lesson before he went out. So we'll see how that went.
So Michael Long lining up this short birdie putt.
Pretty handy stuff. So presumably a birdie there. 3-time winner on the PGA Tour of Australasia.
And that will take Andrew Martin back to even par. Michael Long from 500 to 600 goes from 7th place into 4th place.
He's on the other side, mate. I can't see him.
So Brodie, maybe, do you think potentially waiting for a ruling? Or he could have been waiting for his playing partner
Yep.
play in. So
Out of the way, caddy.
he must have a swing and a shot by the looks of it. So he's got lucky, or
Just need him to hold up a little flag over there if he can.
an explosion of red earth.
Yep, not a clue where that one went. I think presumably short right from the line. I'll get confirmation of where that ball ended up in a moment.
Let's go back to the 13th, the par 3. This is Theo. Theo Coroneo. Oh, get up that slope. That's an excellent shot. Just needed a half a metre more. Give him a nice flat birdie opportunity. his playing partner today, Brady Watt from Western Australia. Both these men started the day at 4 under par. That'll be a tricky up and down from over there, Ali. Brady Watt 2 under in his round today. This is Felton. I've got a feeling that that's his third, that he was a little wayward having to chip back out into that area. But
well, either that or it's a monster drive.
Yeah. But a good opportunity, if it is his third, to save his par.
Mentioned his partner in golf and crime, Hannah Green. We know that she's tuning in from over in the USA at the moment.
And what a season she's been having as well. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be back with more here at the WA PGA in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Peter Leonard.
I'm Aaron Townsend.
I'm Dave Branston. I'm from Sale Golf Club and you're watching PGA TV.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Day. Welcome to My Golf, the first step for kids to learn the game. You'll have an awesome time picking up the basics with your mates. Golf is fun, easy to learn, and a great way to meet new friends. Have a great time and I'll see you out in the golf course.
My name's Isaac Riches. One day I'm playing golf all around the world, just like Jason Day.
Oh, I'm pretty certain that we're going to see Isaac Riches playing golf because I follow him on Instagram and on Twitter, and he is a gun.
What a little legend.
Yeah.
Good on you, Isaac.
First five.
So this is the group of Ryan Lynch and Braden Becker. They'll be enjoying
I think it's group 5 on 2.
the company of two lovely ladies as their partners, Stacey and Rochelle in this group alongside them today.
I met both of those ladies on the flight on the way in, and they've been training hard too. They were playing, one of them was playing in the WA Ladies Stroke Championships a few weeks ago at Cottesloe, so keen golfers. Oh, bless you. So both players in this final group, the leaders, in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, just making a little bit of a mess of this 10th hole. Quite an intimidating tee shot, 10. You can't actually see a lot of the fairway from the tee.
So we saw the tee shot of Brady Watts pulled left on the 13th. So I mentioned if you can get the putter in hands, not a bad thing at all, but he's left himself with a bit of work for par here.
Has a tendency to just get a little damp down on that left-hand side. There's not a lot of water drainage, so perhaps another reason why he chose to putt. And presumably a par save for Brodie.
You'd think so, otherwise it would have been Gavin Kirkman putting his arm around the other way to say, come on, keep it going.
Yeah, Felton made bogey, Phil.
Confirmation.
So Simon Hawkes at the front of the 11th for 2. That one jumping off the putter. Needs to settle. I'll have that for birdie.
Wow, that's the first actual quick green today.
He's never short of a comment, Simon. I have to admit, his interviews that he did at the Vic Open were so refreshing and quite loose, really, in a way. He was one of those guys that when he got behind the mic, it was just like he was living the dream.
Yep. Yeah, well, as I mentioned, when I played with him, he was very much like that. He started off a little poorly, and he very quickly let our whole group know why and how we were all hoping he was going to turn it around because we were relying on him for birdies, but it never came that day. See if we can get another one here today, though. This is to go 3 under for his round. And he makes it. Very nice.
I told you he was Limmy. Look at that. 6'4".
So this putt here for birdie for Coroneo. Can see has to come up. A slight hill there.
Came through the Jack Newton Junior Golf Foundation, one of their products, and as have many of those that grew up in New South Wales. It's been a real stalwart, really, a junior development program of the last 15 years.
He still does a great job, Jack, with his invitational event up in the Hunter Valley for the kids. And I'll tell you what, that's a good saving par putt right there for Brady Watt.
Applied his trade on the South American, the Latino PGA Tour for a couple of years, Brady. Followed some of his adventures while he was over there. It wasn't dull.
That can be tough. I know from my own sport, getting into South America, particularly if you don't speak the language, can be really, really hard work. Ryan Ruffles going through that battle down there right now.
Yeah, well, at least Ryan's fluent in Spanish because of his mother, but some of us not so lucky, and that is a real unforced error there for Theo. So it's going to be a 3-putt bogey for the New South Welshman.
As they move to the 14th. Just back quickly, Ali, while we take a look at there to the psychology, and I asked you this before about. We'll get to that again in a moment. We're going to take a look here.
Just kidding.
At the leaderboard. So both players look like making bogey. Jared Felton, in fact, is back to 9. Brodie Martin at 10. Simon Hawkes now sits on top of the leaderboard after making birdie at 11.
Yeah, and it's a testament to the volunteers that are out here this week that we've got a couple of walking scorers out with our feature groups, but not every group is covered, so we'll always do the best to keep these scores as accurate and up-to-date as possible.
Yeah, so Jared Felton was in deep trouble off the tee. He made double there on the 10th. We saw him chip from the centre of the fairway to what looked like a potential par putt, but in fact he's missed it and made double. Josh Younger on the tee at 13.
And just finding the front edge there.
And Jake Higginbottom. .192 metres, so a solid par 3. And that's an excellent shot. If the greens were just a tad faster, that one may have come back towards the hole.
Well, that bunker really cuts in.
Let me get back to that question that I was talking about. You talked about the visuals of this course, and you said with all that red around the green fairway, all you could see was trouble. Talk through the difficulties of what you see on tee shots and approach shots, and how a course like this can play with your mind.
Well, certainly that's exactly what it does. And I think when you go to a normal golf course, you see trees, but it's not quite as a severe distinction between the two. And I remember the first time I played in Arizona, and it took some real getting used to, because all of a sudden you're in everywhere's a fairway bunker, and it's not a very promising shot, really, the long bunker play.
So I wonder whether you see the target as being green and easy, or you see red as trouble. I see you seeing the negative at the moment.
It's hard to see the negative. I feel like we just went to Hawaii for a second there. But excuse me for laughing a little bit. But as I said, you know, it's green's where you want to be and red's dead, I think, is the good term to put it all together. And just to pull it into a little bit more focus too, a lot of these greens, we talked about the little levels and elevations and sections of them, and you can see it here on that 13th. Again, you get shots here where you've got a big green and you can miss and put yourself in that three-putt territory. Today, we just see the wind picking up a little bit there on the flag, but we saw, I think it was the 16th yesterday, a pin tucked in the corner, and it was only giving you about a half a club leeway to be able to attack that pin, and it was a tough little shot. You're going to get a lot of those throughout this weekend. Well, when you think about a lot of these greens as well, they might be, say, 25 to 40 metres in length, but as you say, you've only got half a shot of error that you can really play with. And Jared pulled his tee shot just a little bit here on the par 5. It sounded a little bit tinny as well. Not the best strike. So he'll have a short pitch for his third into the par 5. Zach Rad going for it in 2, is he? Bring up that left shoulder. Now, I promised Zach at the start of the day we weren't going to do any slow-mo swing analysis. He was begging us not to. That one just leaking out a little to the right. Could be interesting. Well, it's in the hazard. The good thing here in the desert, there's not a lot of water in the hazard, so it depends on what type of lie he gets. True. The downside about the hazard is that if you drop the ball, sometimes it plugs because you're still in the wastelands. Big supporter of golf. Lucky to have him. TX Civil and Logistics, our partner. It's the 7th time the WAPGA has been played here in Kalgoorlie, and a lot of the players love coming back into here. It's as you mentioned at the opener, it's a unique place to be able to come into Kalgoorlie. Yeah, just the second appearance here for Brodie Martin. Finished 49th here last year. Looks like he started that out to try to fade that one in, and with what looked like a terrible follow through, he's ended up with an absolute perler.
Well, let's check in, Ali, and see how you'd play this hole.
Every now and then you come across a hole where you really do have to produce a shot shape. The 11th tee is one of those. It's 518 metres long, it's par 5, but as you can see, there's plenty of foliage overhanging on that right-hand side, so draw is not an option here because long left is ugly. A power fade just up the right centre would be ideal off the tee. If you've pulled your tee shot just a little bit off the green, you might find yourself in this left-hand bunker. It's around about 270 metres off the tee and you'll find yourself in the sand, so that almost rules out going for the green in 2. However, if you hit it down here on this nice little patch of fairway, you're looking at around about 200 metres to the front of the green, so it really does open up this epic risk-reward hole with the bunkers on the front right and the drop-off on the left. Despite being 30 metres long, this 11th green actually plays a little bit smaller than that in reality, and that's because of the sections. This front left section, for example, runs from front to back, so that's something to take into account on your approach shot. And then the green extends back into that little peninsula over in the back right section. So if you can hit to the middle of that, you're going to set yourself up for a pretty good eagle or birdie chance.
Well, good stuff there, Ali. The way that the wind is today, this hole is definitely an eagle and birdie chance. Interestingly enough, when we weren't out there last night walking around the course, it was playing heavily into a breeze, and it was pretty much a 3-shotter. So wind conditions certainly make this course a different proposition every time you come out.
Oh, and this isn't favourable either for Jared Felton. He's managed to find, I mean, there's only about 10 yards of wasteland that really cuts in to the fairway there on the 11th.
Interesting, isn't it? Because a really solid opening 9 holes, sitting atop of the leaderboard, and then one bad swing, and it's sort of brought about a little bit of a downfall here for Jared. Got to get himself back in the groove.
This is a really tough shot. Probably only around, I'd say, about 80 metres to the pin.
Okay, so tell us how he should be playing it.
Well, trying to catch the ball really as cleanly as possible.
Sitting down just a little bit.
You can see just taking it back outside the plane a little bit. Come down steep, try and pitch it through.
And just not sitting down, but overall he gives himself a putt, so not too bad from that position. Gavin Kirkman rehearsing his little pitch shot.
Nice to see some of the crowds out following.
I'm fully in, mate.
As well, John Bowler, the mayor of Kalgoorlie, has actually been out and been a part of the event this year. He's always ever present here at the WA PGA Championship, and I believe he was helping with the scoring yesterday, one of the scoring volunteers. So it's all hands on deck.
So this was Josh Younger, even for today. Now, this is where we talked about 3-putt territory coming in. Has to come in up over that hill. And left himself about 3 foot there for par. Now, we're going to see some greens as we come into the closing holes, Ali, that we can see a slight rise there, but there's some real tricky greens if you get out of position. 16, 18, in particular 18 is a really unique hole. Very big 3-tiered green.
There aren't too many flat tiers around here. But for those of you that have played Royal Pines since the redesign, you'll see this is almost the desert version of that golf course in a way, in terms of the slopes around the greens. It's very similar, lots of roll-offs and drop-offs.
This is Jake Higginbottom for birdie. Coaster start to the back 9 for Higginbottom after 2 birdies and a bogey. On the front has gone bogey 10, birdie 11 and bogey on 12, so settles it with a first par at 13 on the back 9.
When I was reading Graham Marsh's assessment of his own design, he said there was a lot of scoring opportunities in the midsection on the front 9, and then the back 9 was really designed to challenge the players, in particularly coming home. And you can see that by, you know, the greens complexes we've mentioned on 16 and 18. A couple of hard driving holes coming down the stretch as well.
And you're talking about Graham Marsh. I mean, the course open, this new design in
2010,
some 8 years ago. They've been playing golf here though for nearly 120 years. So it's been a fixture here in Kalgoorlie. The Kalgoorlie Golf Club founded 119 years ago. So still a bit of work to clean up for par. Hugely important for Felton just to settle back down again. Ali, you'll be able to express this a little bit. You come in with a lead as we see Josh Younger trying to clean up for his par. So often on a Saturday we see the leaders stall out. It's very rare we see them keep charging away, and Felton's sort of starting to slip into that mode. But why is that? And why is it so difficult to, do you put the brakes on? Do you play tentative? Do you play safe? Or what should be the mindset?
Well, I think for Jared's known by those close to him to be quite a perfectionist, and he has very high expectations of himself on the golf course. I was talking to Jamie Glazier, who's his mental coach, over the last couple of months, and they went and did some work last week at Royal Melbourne together.
Saw him actually on the range. It's
exactly.
my home club.
Yeah, and Jamie is I think he's the first ever mental coach to be assigned to an actual golf club. So that's maybe. You know, times that signs that the times are changing. But he said that they were trying to really separate his left and right brain, so trying to engage more of Jared Felton's, as you see, nice putt there from Brodie Martin, but try to really engage Jared's right brain to be a little bit more creative and get rid of the left brain so he's less critical of himself, which is quite interesting in retrospect. So I think the more that he can engage, in particular when things aren't going right, keep that creative process going. It's important.
I don't know about you, but I did work out a way to get my left brain out of action.
Okay.
That was to retire.
Jared's too young to retire.
And he's got a few more years of mental torture in front of him.
Well, the first...
Okay, that's a good effort though to make par there from a loose tee shot and having to recover from a couple of bunker in a wasteland.
Yeah, seems to have gotten away with it.
Let's take a look, Ali, at the leaderboard. This is how it stands as we go through the halfway mark of round 3. Simon Hawkes and Brodie Martin sit atop at 10 under par. Jared Felton, after that double bogey, falls one behind to 9 under. And a terrific round, the round of the day so far in the clubhouse. Kellen O'Reilly with 5 under par. And Chris Wood, have a look at that, 7 under for the day through 15. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more live action from the TX Civil and Logistics WA PGA Championships.
Hi there, I'm Steve Jeffrey from Southport.
I'm Matt Griffin from Victoria Golf Club, and I hope you're enjoying
PGA TV.
one day maybe I'd like to be a professional golfer. So when I'm older, I'd like a house on the golf course. It'd be fun, I could just walk and play and then just go back home, relax and then go again.
Welcome back to the WA PGA. We're at the Kalgoorlie Golf Club and just have a look at the picturesque landscapes that surround this majestic golf course. The Graham Marsh designed Kalgoorlie Golf Club has really turned it on, and it does most days here because the weather is magnificent. A crisp morning followed by a beautiful afternoon for golf, and time now for me to welcome in our special guest, and Kerrod Gray, teaching pro at Joondalup. You've been out here the last couple of days, didn't make the cut, but that's our benefit. You're going to sit here, you're going to talk us through what the difficulties are out on the golf course, but great to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, got a little bit lost.
And you brought a fly with you, by
I know, they're just everywhere in here.
Those things will eat you in WA. You've got to watch out.
Yeah, unfortunately got a little bit lost out in that iconic Kalgoorlie wasteland out there.
Yeah.
So I didn't make the cut, but it's an absolute pleasure to be here regardless.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we're going to have your insights about what lays ahead for us over this next couple of hours. So, talk us through now the difficulties. And when we talk about wasteland, we just saw Jared Felton there playing out of a bunker, then into the wasteland. Did you get any of that trouble while you're out there? Or shouldn't I ask?
I got plenty, unfortunately. With the way that a wasteland is set out, some parts have gravel and some don't. So depending how the ball sits, you've actually got to sort of change and adjust your approach for how you're going to play it each time, which makes it sometimes difficult, especially when you're playing into a cut pin or wherever it is situated on the green. Yeah.
I'll talk about, just for a moment, your position, teaching pro at Joondalup. So you're managing to come back out and play pro tournaments, and then, of course, you go home and teach. And, I mean, one of the difficult thing is to go home and try and teach hackers like me. That must be tough, and then try to keep your own game in shape.
Yeah, well, that's the part I love the most. Teaching, that's my full-time job, and I'm very passionate about it, do it full-time. So playing, I sort of just doing the to keep the competitive edge alive.
Yeah.
And I think any teaching pro would be lying if they didn't say that they still wanted part of them to go out and play on tour. So it's great to be able to come out and still do it. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we're going to test you as we go throughout the
Fantastic.
afternoon.
Bring it on.
Let's get to some live golf here.
Michael Long down short of the green on 13. One of the interesting, things about this golf course that I found quite surprising on my first trip. You'd expect it, Kerrod, because WA, the desert, you think it's a hot place, but they've got couch fairways and bent grass greens, which can take the heat, but they're not as grainy as I was expecting. You'd think you might get a Bermuda or a Kikuyu out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the lies around the green are very tricky. Some of the pitch shots that you'll face, especially if you're short side yourself, you can tend to get into the grain quite considerably. So the old Texas wedge or using the putter is sometimes not the worst option, as the club can definitely get stuck into that grass if you're not playing it technique-wise as proficient as you could.
Terrific shot there from Peter Wilson with an opportunity for birdie. Talk about your coaching just a little bit more, because I'm big in kids in golf. That's one of the things that's drawn me to this game so much, and my golf's been doing so well, and how you go about teaching some of the youngsters and how you keep them in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's sort of the favourite part of my job, to tell you the truth. I work a lot with competitive golfers, be that young or older, and the My Golf program itself is a fantastic initiative from Golf Australia and PGA, going out to the schools and within the clubs, the deliverers, both community instructors and PGA professionals, doing a lot of great work to really spread the game. And they just ticked over 10,000 participants back in February, so they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. We talked about Royal Melbourne, actually. We mentioned my home club, Jamie Glazier, and working with Jared Felton, but at RM, they do a terrific job getting a lot of kids through and getting them started. And I guess that's the key. You've got to get a club in the hand and sort of plant that seed.
Yeah, and you really just got to make it as fun as possible.
Yeah.
For young kids, if they're trying to hit the ball as hard as they can, which is what they love with the driver, and they're staying relatively in balance, then I think they're going to enjoy it a lot more than if they'd been told to work a lot on the technique side. So making sure the club in their hand and they're having a lot of fun is key, for sure.
What is it about the boom in West Australian golf? Really, we've seen so much talent come out of WA, and it obviously is quite a lot yet to come. A lot of really good junior programs over here. Is it the lack of a lot of professional teams in other sports? Is there just more focus on golf?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I would say the regional centres do a very good job. I myself from Margaret River, so about 3 hours south of Perth, and even down there in a very small country town, we had a lot of juniors growing up. Christy Smith actually comes from Margaret River as well, so she's obviously famed out on the American circuits over there and European Ladies Tour. So I think it's down to some very good coaches. We're very blessed to have quite a lot of good instructors over in WA, and I think I was speaking at the school the other day about how sometimes distance and in the face of adversity where you have to travel a lot, these kids, they kind of have to work hard to put themselves up there with the other states that have a lot of funding. So I think they're doing a really good job all around in Golf WA. Fantastic program, yeah.
We had Anthony Quayle here last year who was in contention, and he used to travel, I think it was a 12-hour drive to go and play golf up in the Northern Territory in Arnhem Land, really out in the sticks, and he said he used to make a golf course in his backyard out of baked bean tins.
Oh, we've all been there. We've all been there. I remember countless nights with my dad's sort of mechanical roller, rolling the sand with a little cup in there and trying to putt the ball off the sand. Thought it looked really good at night, go out there in the morning, and it was an absolute mess. But it's all in fun. It's all in fun.
Now, it looks as though Jared Felton might have found a little bit of trouble again off the tee.
Saw
him in a spot of bother. So maybe just a moment of unravel for our overnight leader.
Yeah, the 12th, a short par for 353 metres. It's where you want to position yourself off the tee, and this is perfect position for the second for Brodie Martin, and confirmation for us as he's given himself another very good birdie opportunity that he eagled the 11th. So he's got a 2-shot lead now over Simon Hawkes at 12 under par.
Pretty handy stuff. And it's really the MO of day 3 in any event.
As we head back to the 13th tee, Daniel McGraw. Couple over for today.
Bit of a late bloomer, Daniel McGraw. He actually didn't start playing golf until he was about 14 years old. I know a lot of the my golf golfers were looking at the barely hip high.
So Simon Hawkes. Tough to get it really close on this pin. It looks like if you hit it that little bit short, that slope just takes it away. If you hit it pin high, it edges its way through the back. So here's where Jared Felton left his second shot, so he needs to get this one up and down.
Nicely done indeed. I've got you, partner, he says.
Throwing the provisional back. Two of my playing partners had to do that to me during the week.
He's a lovely feature, and I don't know, I always felt a little bit more relaxed in a way when we were playing a Pro-Am format, particularly on the weekends. We used to have one in Scotland on the Ladies European Tour, and it was just fun. It was a fun event, and having that, you know, extra person on your team out there under pressure was really important.
Yeah, and with a lot of these high-level golfers, taking their mind off what they're doing is obviously key to a degree, because it's too easy to get stuck thinking about the score, and being in that relaxed environment with Pro-Am competitors that are very respectful and understand that you're out there trying to make a living.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
there is the odd amateur that does get thinking they're playing the pro tournament at that same time.
Yeah, yeah. I've given many a lesson out on the golf course during when I'm trying to play, which is it's good. It's good for them, but sometimes very challenging to keep your own focus on your own game.
This is for birdie.
Now, I've known Brodie for a long time. he has the ability to shoot very low. Fantastic ball striker. And he's the sort of guy that's, you'd say, very blasé about his golf game, just goes out there and he's very good at getting it done. And he can shoot some very low numbers. Even as a trainee, he was always floating around that sort of mid-60 mark when he was playing well.
Well, he was the #1 ranked trainee at the end of 2016. He's thrown out an eagle per day as well. He's not happy with that one, though.
Back to the 13th, just coming up that little ridge. Oh, and a great putt.
So Daniel McGraw gets one back.
You're talking about the amateur putt. You could hear there, the get there, get there, get there. So a team 3-pointer on the Stableford format. So another crucial putt just to hang on here. So when you're in the middle of a round like this, Kerrod, and you've been atop of the leaderboard and your swing's just getting away from you, you need to pull it back. What goes through your mind? What can you put in place?
Well, a lot of these players, before they go out, part of the warm-up routine, which I think a lot of amateurs don't really understand, is when they're on the range prior to going out, they're just trying to find a feel and a ball flight that they can go out and play their normal game doing. You will find it very rarely that the players will be chopping and changing their swing thoughts when they're out on course, because you'll end up just spinning your wheels and never finding that feel that you're looking for. So out of that consistency, that's going to breed those good scores. And I think it's important not to get wound up too much over the process and how it feels off the club face, because at the end of the day, if the ball's finishing somewhere near the target, you're doing your job well. So some of your best ball striking days result in sometimes not your best score, and it works both ways. So
I must admit, as someone that has a great passion for golf and excelled in a different sport, I was always fascinated and still fascinated by golfers worrying about actually getting it round the target perfectly but not hitting it purely.
Yeah.
Because there are times in my sport where we can shank it off the frame and get it in and hit a let cord or hit a lob, and all of a sudden, wow,
yeah,
we go, yes, come on.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see a bit more of that in golf sometimes, because I've heard people discuss hitting it, you know, a groove too low or a groove too high and things like that.
Yeah.
So maybe they're having themselves on.
You can never master golf, so in that pursuit, you're only going to drive yourself crazy.
Absolutely.
We've all been there.
Yeah, that's why Ali sits in here right now.
It is certainly a tough sport. And, you know, when we look at even this week, you've got Brad Moores, who was 66 on day 1, 76 day 2. It's just, I mean, it does your head in, honestly. And trying to bounce back from that in rounds 3 and 4 is always, you know, it's the tale of two cities, except it's 2 mind frames, really.
Yeah, and sometimes you come in after that 76 and you wonder where it all went wrong, because you felt like you probably played even better than the day before.
Yeah.
But that's the beast that is golf, isn't it?
And a great feature here is the tee markers at the WA PGA. The earth movers from the super pit next door.
If anyone wants to see a very funny Instagram post, go on to Braden Becker's girlfriend's profile. There's one of Braden in the practice round sitting down playing with the truck.
That's not Hayley, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep, we saw them out during the practice round. She's got quite a sense of humour. Good golfer in her own right as well.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Talking about Hayley Betancourt.
Yeah.
So Hayley's just picked up another few thousand followers on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. She paid me for that play.
Yeah.
So he needs a good swing here. Jared, you talked about trying to get it to the target. So a bit of refocusing, couple of pulled tee shots in the last 2 holes.
I think that's down on the short right. Maybe might have caught the bunker, might be short. But either way, we'll have a lot of green to play with, which I'm not sure is always a blessing, depending on the lie.
Kerry, what was your approach to playing the course? I mean, the first round was a difficult day, cold and windy. I spoke to Simon Hawkes, who made an interesting comment where he said, "Oh, I love this course because it's a ground course. You play it low." And I thought, oh, that's interesting because there's a lot of deep, heavy swales through here, and it'd be hard to run them up, you know, that type of thing. So, high ball flight, low ball flight.
Off the tee, just going to Ali's point, it is very intimidating. Even though it is wide and you're out in the fairway sometimes and you look left and right and go, how the hell did I miss this fairway? It's massive. You could park an aeroplane in here, but standing on some of the tees, just with the placement of the trees, it can be quite deceiving and intimidating itself. But going into the greens, as a general rule of thumb, and this is probably great for the amateurs at home to know about as well, is when the pin's at the back of the green, you try and flight that ball in nice and low and run it up, and when the pin's at the front, you try and get a little bit more height. But a lot of the time, just aiming for the centre of the green and plotting your way along is always going to breed better results than trying to be too aggressive out there.
Good words of wisdom there that I'll take into my next round.
Are you sticking around for an extra day, Todd, to try and play this layout? I tell you what, it is tempting.
I would love to, because it is really beautiful. All right. After those words from Kerry, we're going to take a very quick break. We'll be back with more live golf from Kalgoorlie.
Hi, I'm Anthony Crowell from Sanctuary Cove on the Gold Coast. I hope you're enjoying watching PGA TV.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Day. Welcome to My Golf, the first step for kids to learn the game. You'll have an awesome time picking up the basics with your mates. Golf is fun, easy to learn, and a great way to meet new friends. Have a great time, and I'll see you out in the golf course.
One day maybe I'd like to be a professional golfer. So when I'm older, I'd like a house on the golf course. It'd be fun, I could just walk and play and then just go back home, relax and then go again.
Primary school today in the Goldfields, and we are delivering the My Golf in Schools program. In WA we try and see as many schools as possible. It's a full year at schools and just introducing these kids to the game and trying to connect them with the local golf club and the PGA members.
Okay, so today we're pretty much spreading the game of golf. We're going out to the primary schools and we're introducing a lot of these kids that normally wouldn't have the opportunity to get exposure to this great game.
The regional schools are really important for our clubs, not only now but for the future. Golf's a game that you can learn at any age, and introducing the game to children is really important for the future of our golf clubs in the regional areas.
Giving exposure to the game to these rural areas as well as the metro areas is huge for our game, which needs sort of that boost of youth, so the work that they're doing is very important to our sport.
It's so amazing every time we come out. Golf's a sport that many of these kids have never tried before, and they come in thinking it's going to be really challenging, which we all know it is, but the joy they get when they finally get that shot out of the middle of the club is just amazing, and they want to try more.
The Australian junior champion, Connor Fuchs, is actually from Kalgoorlie. So he grew up in this town, he actually still lives here. He's the greenkeeper at Kalgoorlie, so they can come from anywhere, and sometimes in a place like this, that in face of adversity from the travel and everything like that, they can really breed champions.
Thank you, you're welcome, guys. We'll see you next time.
Well, great stuff. We've got the man himself, Kerry Gray, sitting alongside of us. Great. I'm pleased that you're going to stay with us. Great effort getting out there and doing that. That's hugely important for the game. And any superstars sitting amongst the group?
Absolutely. They all looked like it. They were having such a blast. And as long as they're not swinging the golf club around violently, trying to hit each other like a windmill, we're having a good time as well. Yeah, absolutely.
It's good of you to get out there and be giving back like that as well. So it looked like Jared caught the green there with his tee shot, long putt.
Yeah, just in that part of the round where it's easy to kind of lose focus between, you know, those 12th and 15th hole. Really can't afford to do that around this golf course in particular.
So you mentioned he's working with Jamie Glazer on the mental side of things. How would they potentially approach segmenting a round of golf? Would there be those moments where this is a troublesome area for him and he's got to work on it, or is this something that's just a day by day?
Well, he'd only made 2 bogeys in the first 2 rounds, and both of them were on the back 9, and one of them was on 13. So not a really good spot for him to come back on the golf course. But I think there's a couple of tricks that pros use, and sometimes, I'm sure Kerrod would probably agree with me, that sometimes when you're in a real slump, you can actually break it up into different sections. So I would start thinking, all right, I'm through the first 12 holes. I want to play the next 6 holes in this, you know, with this mind frame, and kind of break it up into 3 rounds rather than focusing on, you know, a whole 18 score. Just try and ditch whatever's happened. But, you know, Jared's hanging in there. It's not like he's playing that poorly, but he's just going through a little bit of a rut out there between 10 and now 13.
It's a good lag, couple of feet left. Fair bit of break in that putt there for Brodie Martin. How do you see it, Kerrod?
So, yeah, just backing off the way that Ali was describing it then, it's different for every player based on their personality and their emotional state throughout the round. Some people are very laid back, like a Brady Watt, very cool, calm, collected character, and some people are a little bit more high energy. So everyone's got their own little way of dealing with it, and I suppose you'd have to ask each individual.
Good long putt for birdie there for Ryan Lynch. And that is a 3 putt for Jared Felton. So another one slipping away. So the head will be spinning just ever so slightly.
I was speaking to Richie Smith, Jared's coach, and we were talking about his different players maybe about 2 months ago, and he was saying that Jared's the one he's most excited about.
Well, look at the body language there. I'm always fascinated by athletes and their body language, and the one that manages to hold on, or at least not let you know how they're actually feeling. But we can see it right there from him.
Well, Jared's been really tough on himself the whole year, to be honest with you, at least since the end of last year. His body language has been quite poor. I remember watching him at the Vic Open. I was out walking with his partner and watched him for a couple of holes, and you knew exactly what he was thinking. And I think that comes from the perfectionist side, and his own expectations that he's setting that he's not reaching. And it's a game of millimetres. But then how do you tell someone to not be a perfectionist? Honestly, it's such a wonderful sport in that regard.
Yeah, sometimes you can feel like you're doing everything right and play your worst golf, and the other time you just rock up, no preparation, and pull off a win.
Which is not the perfect thing to tell a young player.
No.
So 12 under through 13 holes of round 3 for Brodie Martin. If you're just joining us, we're at the Kalgoorlie Golf Club in the Goldfields of Western Australia. It's been a magnificent venue for this event for the last number of years. 7 times it's been played here. And it's a perfect day for golf. And I think that's one of the things, as I mentioned before, on top of the leaderboard, you want to try to gap yourself from the rest of the field if you can. And that's where Jared's probably thinking now, oh, you know, he's now 1 over par for the day, and there's some pretty good scores out there. Chris Wood is 7 under through 15 holes today. There's a couple at 5 under. Callan O'Reilly shot a 67, as did Evan Bassick as well. So it's there if you can be ready to take it.
Peter Wilson also having a good day, and he's one of the 4 people that have shot 64 around this golf course. He did that last year in 2017. Down on 16. Tough green, this.
Yeah, this is, we're talking about the segments within a green. This is basically 3 greens in one, isn't it? 3 very small targets. Or the middle one, it probably gets a bit of action because the 2 either side fall into that centre.
Yeah, it was tucked up on the back right corner yesterday, and I had about 106 metres in, but even that was an extremely difficult shot, flying it in at such a height as well. So very much postage stamps on some parts of that green out there.
That's the one thing that I've always thought that pros do better than amateurs is understand their carries. I've always encouraged it, whenever someone says, what can I do to get better? I always say, go to the range and actually spend some time on your yardages, because the pros are just so much more. Obviously, we hit, generally hit it more consistently as well, but just understanding, all of those yardages throughout your bag is important.
Yeah, a lot of players just assume that their 7-iron goes 150 metres and they base every club off that. But with most amateur golfers, they probably strike the ball well 5 or 6 times out of 10, and they leave the ball short as a result.
Well, Billy, we saw in the MyGolf little clip with you a moment ago, she's in form.
Yeah, she's crushing it.
She's not only teaching it well, but she's proving that she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, former women's state player for Western Australia.
So, Brady Watt. Brady's and Brody's. I'm working hard to make sure I don't make a mistake on those today.
She got to pick between Theo and Brady last night at the draw party, and she went with Brady just because he was a WA boy and she knew him a bit better. I thought it'd be a nice cruisy day.
Oh yeah, very cruisy character.
I believe he's a vegan.
He is. He is. But he's not one of those crazy ones that tries to impose it on everyone.
Okay.
No, he's good.
All right, he's not going to steal the meat from anyone's sandwiches around here anytime quickly.
Not at all.
And so, Ellie, that looks like the 18th green to me, par 5. And with one of the more undulating greens that you'll see on any golf course in Australia. Big 3-tiered elevated green. And on the left of screen there is Cameron John, young Victorian, coming out of the trees, hopefully being able to find a reasonable layup. He's still going along quite nicely. He's tied 5th at the moment, 3 under for his round today. Impressive amateur career, won the Victorian Amateur, then went away overseas, won the Scottish Stroke Play. He's turned pro pretty young, but felt he needed to get going.
Everyone does it differently. Some take up the game later in life. As we head back to Brady Watt. Slightly downhill.
I should throw in there, you mentioned the Australian Junior Boys Championships as well. He was the winner the year before last at the Wollongong Golf Club. Beautiful putt. Tell us how the greens have been rolling throughout the tournament so far.
The course has been in fantastic condition. We got in on Tuesday. I played 9 holes just before it got dark, and very consistent, very consistent. Graham Marsh design, obviously, and he grew up here very much like the Vines out near Perth. Large undulating greens, and the speed of them, and hats off to the superintendent and his staff, just putting them in a perfect sort of condition and speed for how they should play. Very true, very true.
I imagine you've got to be careful around here. You get them too quick and get a good solid wind get up in the afternoon, and they've almost become unplayable.
This course is a beast. Played it about 4 years ago, and it was incredibly windy. We had a big sandstorm and electrical storm in the Pro-Am, and the first couple of days was ferocious winds. And if they had the greens any faster, it would have almost been unplayable. So
this looks like the third shot into the last hole for Cameron John. Out of Victoria, as I mentioned, works with Tim Wendell out of the Roval Sports Academy at Waverley Golf Club. So the three-tiered green, this one's sitting, this pin in the lower tier. And that's got to hang on, doesn't it? So distance control. A little out for Cameron.
Right there, Todd, you can see how undulating it is just to the right-hand side of the green. Very tight and hard down there as well, so it's a difficult pitch, especially going to some of that cut pins where they position it on the right-hand side there.
And a good roll. Coroneo.
So that gets him to 6 under par, 2 under for the day. Heading off to 17, playing a little bit shorter than it was in the previous 2 rounds. Now, it's not often that you have to add up sections of a green to work out how long it is. But 18, there's a 28-metre section, and then there's an extra 25-metre section. So I've got that at 53 metres long, 58 in the old language. that's a monster.
Yeah.
And it's broken up into 3 quite severe tiers, the top one being the short and the front tier, and then it tapers all the way down to the back edge.
Yeah, for the amateurs at home, we get a course guide that we're looking at the distances from. Not allowed to use lasers in these events, so we've got a map that we're looking at to try and figure out how far it is. And the green on this hole on the course guide almost takes up the whole page.
Well, he wasn't happy with that. I think that was Peter Wilson, and yet it almost ended up pretty good. It had a little bit of spin, taking it back down that slope.
Oh, he's used to slope. He's got the biggest half pipe in the Southern Hemisphere in his backyard, Peter Wilson. So he's all right with that little swale. Random fact. He actually invites a lot of pro skaters over to use it.
Half pipe. I didn't know whether we were skiing, skateboarding,
what is it
surfing.
called?
I wasn't sure where.
Is it called the half pipe?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was living at Bell's Beach or something like that.
It's a long time since I've been skateboarding, Todd, so let me off on that one.
And what we saw there was just a perfect example of pro strategizing of where to miss the ball. So a lot of amateurs, they neglect to acknowledge the trouble, which sometimes makes them execute the shots and put the ball in the position where it's not ideal. But a lot of these guys, they're knowing exactly where they want to miss the ball, so they've still got a good chance of getting a putt.
I'm not sure that was a clean flight. It almost sounded like it might have clipped something. That is a beast of a hole, isn't it?
Yeah, 452-metre par 4.
Getting the magpie.
Playing, oh, you better run. It's playing around about 420 today. Graham Scott said that he was going to push the tee up a little bit, otherwise it was just too far because it was into the breeze this morning.
Yeah, late yesterday morning, we went through there, and it was only a light breeze off the tee. Hit a drive down there and still had 4 iron in, so still a very long hole.
It's most of my par 4s.
Sounds like a good 3-shot hole to me. Again, just a little bit left off the tee here for Jared. It's been a consistent miss for him. Bailed out right on 13 with the iron in hand, but the last 3 drives have been up the left.
Sounded like a better strike, didn't it? And just catches the front edge. Needed more club, and that's still going to be a testing up and down, if you like. It could be, imagine he's going to use the putter from there. So this is Cameron John. We saw him come up just short. Still for birdie, sitting at 6 under par. See, I would have been happy with that putt. No stress for the tap in. And he's a little hot under the collar, so maybe, potentially, that could have been a drop shot. I don't know where he was when he was coming out of those trees. Confirmation in a minute. This one for birdie. Slips on by. We saw that magpie a little moment ago chasing it. A couple of hours' time, you've got to dodge the kangaroos. That's one of the unique features of this course as well. Plenty of them sitting in the trees in the shade, and as the afternoon gets a little longer, they come out for a feed. Doing a bit of a course inspection yesterday. Gerard Ali chased a mob of them down a fairway in a golf cart.
Or were they chasing her?
I just couldn't. If I turned left, they went left. If I turned, I couldn't get away from them.
So round 3, done and dusted for those players. We get back to Jake Higginbottom on the 16th. Talk about chipping around here. We're talking about using the putter as much as you can, but what lies for a lot of the players in terms of lie and difficulty in some of these areas?
Yeah, like we were saying before, the grass is very tight around the greens, and at some points it does get quite grainy dependent on the slope, and also there's a few aeration marks out there where it's gotten a bit wet, so they've tried to sort of dry it out. So you're faced with quite a diverse range of lies, and you really have to pick your club wisely, dependent on how you want the golf club to interact with the turf. Obviously, the shallower, the better, so the club's not digging in. That's going to help you get that ball up nice and high and land hopefully soft. And right there, you can see a very, very tight lie. So we can watch and see what sort of shot he plays from here.
It's perfect segue into what we were talking about. And this is one of those areas where you can see, you mentioned where they're a bit damper, so there's quite a few drainage areas where you'll get that drain, and you can see how severe that slope is, how far he's got to walk up, and well, that's a good couple of metres, and this will be a particularly good shot to be able to get this up and down.
Absolutely, and what Brodie's doing there is he's just walking up and identifying where he wants his ball to land. He's got a picture in his head of the trajectory in which he wants to hit this shot, so it can land up there and finish in a short enough amount of time before it rolls on too far. So he's just walking up there and trying to picture where he wanted to get that ball to pitch.
And he's called that one a little thin. Showed you the difficulty that lay there.
It was nearly head high as well, the rise. It's quite substantial on the left of 14.
It's, you know, a long hole, isn't it, 452 metres, but you miss it left there, you're really making it a 4.5 in terms of par, not just a par 4. He's missed it in the wrong area. You talk about where to miss, that for him was a mistake.
Yeah, he did leave himself with enough green to work with. However, being on the downslope that he was makes it very hard to get enough height on that ball coming into that pin.
Down the slope here for Jake Higginbottom. He says putting in his short game are the strengths of his golf. That one was pretty handy. Struggling a little bit off the tee for a while, but seems to have got that under control. Brodie Martin, he's extended himself out in front, so a bit of a tester here. This is to save par. And he's going to give at least one shot back to the field. Walked up to the tee with a 3-shot lead. Five-shot difference between Brodie and Jared so far today, and that in itself is a bit of a mental battle. Trying to focus on what you're doing, not watching playing partner make putts.
Yeah, absolutely. And different stages of the tournament, the players will be thinking about this situation in an entirely different perspective as such. As when it comes down to the final round, players actually thrive sometimes if they're thinking about it as more of a match play situation rather than a stroke play format where there's a lot of opponents that have only got the one that they're in the final group with heading down the stretch, and that kind of helps them stay composed and position themselves throughout the round.
Well, it turns it into a bit of a duel, and we thought earlier on in this third round that it might actually end up being that way when Jared and Brodie were 2 shots ahead of the rest of the field. It had a real opportunity to kind of punish the other players in that top 10 at the time, but Jared's just fell by the wayside a little bit. 1 over par for his round.
And we saw him at the front of the green, so this is where he's left it. So it looks somewhat, potentially about 3-metre putt to save yet another par.
Yeah, it could be a real momentum changer if this goes in.
Oh, well done. Hugely important save for Jared Felton.
A sigh of relief.
Perhaps the first smile in a little while as well.
Look at the difference there in the body language. We've got open shoulders, hand on hip, as opposed to head down, shaking, crossed arms. We can send him those pics and actually say, well, tomorrow, none of the other.
Well, I know that Jamie Glazier, his mental coach, is watching today, so I'm sure he'll be writing down a couple of notes. But
well, let's take a look at how things stand before we head to break. Brodie Martin there making a bogey, I suggest. So he'll drop 1 and go back to 11 under. Simon Hawkes at 9. Felton, with that good par save, will stay at 8 under. That's how it stands in round 3, latter stages of the afternoon here at the Kalgoorlie Golf Club.
Hi, I'm Matt Miller from Gold Creek Country Club in Canberra. Hope you're enjoying PGA TV.
playing with my friends. I hit it off a tee with a driver. I hit it really far and there was a gigantic tree in my way. And when I hit it, it got stuck in the tree. So I used my club and I threw it up, but then it got stuck, my club, but my whole group laughed. They thought it was really funny.
Welcome back to the TX Civil and Logistics W8 PGA Championships. Theo is on the tee. He won't mind if I call him Theo, will he?
I think he's known
Yeah.
by
Not Theodore.
the majority of the people as Theo, in fact.
A good drive there. We saw Ali Cameron John finishing off on the 18th, and we saw a little sarcastic sort of little fist pump as he just left his birdie putt short, and I think that came from the fact that he was still getting over tripling the 16th, so a 7 on the 16th, followed by a par and a par to finish the day with an even par round of 72.
Oh, that's pretty handy as well.
She's outdriven the pros.
Gets a small amount of head start.
Don't tell them that.
She's only about 5'3", so I think we'll give it to her. And of course, Billy Burville, formerly known as Billy May in the amateur game.
So here's Michael Long. It's his second into 16.
It's easy to forget with someone who's had such an amazing career as Michael Long that, you know, at one point in time he was inside the top 100 in the world, playing at a very, very high level, played on the PGA Tour a couple of seasons in the early 2000s.
A good player, I would suggest, Ali, for the younger pros to actually play with, and during that round, or if not after a round, sit in the clubhouse and pick the brain on how to manage yourself as a young player. He reminds me a lot of a Nick O'Hearn.
I thought you were going to say that.
Because you see when we were on the range earlier today, the way he came in and how he started his warm-up, and there was a real calmness to it, but there's also a clinical aspect to it where you can see him manage his game. And emotionally, with the maturity that he has, he's also got that under control. So I think he'd be an excellent mentor to a lot of young pros and a lot of aspiring young amateurs.
And they'd be lucky to have him as well. It's you'd be hard-pressed to find a nicer guy. Supremely approachable. Decent cook, Michael Long.
Did you do some random cooking program with him or something?
I have gone head-to-head with Michael Long in a cook-off, if you will, before. It was at the
Golf
Big Open
kitchen
a couple.
rules.
Yeah, it was fierce. He just didn't put enough coriander on his fried coral trout, and I managed to get the micro herbs right, and it put me over the edge. So we did that out. I think it was out in was it Oak? What is it called? Oakmont, I think it is a winery out in Ocean Grove. That was good fun.
That is a classic. Micro herbs.
Didn't think you'd hear that today, did you?
No.
Covered some ground.
Microclimate, all sorts of different things, but not micro herbs. And a good shot there of how large that green is. Here's the Fijian, Sam Lee, and he made a classic quote early in this week, a nice story about him on the PGA.org golf site, website, saying his first visit to the outback, to the desert, and he hadn't seen a course like this in Fiji. He's playing the wind-swept coral courses of his native island.
I think he had to go purchase a pair of pants as well. Not used to these cold mornings.
Currently sitting at 19th on the leaderboard, 3 under par, and an even par for his round today. Surprisingly, quite a few of the players still wearing a light jumper, light sweater or jacket. Yesterday afternoon, a lot warmer than it has been today. And we talked about how quickly the temperature drops here in the desert. It's like get to 4:30, 4:45 and the sun's starting to set and you better get ready because it gets cold quickly. And that would have been an amateur there, the way the fancy club twirl as the ball's on the way to the hole.
Yeah,
and he's just walked all over. The etiquette's fallen away very quickly. Sorry there, partner, he said.
Oh, I think that's Klaus again. Klaus and Scott Arnold, I believe.
This is Andrew Martin for a long-range birdie. Oh, and beautifully read. Ball turning right to left, feeding down.
Well, you got to try and top that now.
Putting the pressure on his playing partners. He's feeling a little better than he did this time last year, Andy Martin. He and Rory Burke were driving around for the Ladbrokes Pro-Am series and collected a kangaroo in a rental car. And so there's been many a joke made at Andy Martin's expense this week, but Rory Burke came second last year, so that paid for everything.
So this back nine, Jared Felton, he's sort of getting away with it, isn't he? His targets are way off at the moment.
He's grinding.
Yep.
You know, that's
there's got to be a part in every tournament where you're going to have to hang on and grind, though, isn't there? There's Michael Long. That's his birdie attempt. And drains another one. And that was a real fist pump, not a sarcastic one. Still contained fist pump, though, from... I hate calling him, it was in our a veteran. Not really a veteran. You never stop playing golf, do you?
You don't
He's
need
only
to.
He's only midway through. So out of position as well, Brodie Martin, and that can be a little nasty area there. There's as you can see, a hazardous area. He'll be over that hazard, but there's some gnarly lies there. This is Younger at 17. Quite a bit of break, left and right in that putt.
This is the kind of golf course that when you look at putting stats, the total putt stats start to rise, because the greens are so big that usually on a golf course with smaller greens it'd be a missed green and then you might be able to get up and down, and it only counts as one putt, as opposed to, you know, some 30-metre putts that you might have around this golf course that of course might go down as a bit of a 3-putt at times. Here on 18, I think if you were putting from the front to the back, hole location today, from the front edge, so it'd almost be a par 4 from there.
So this is Jake Higginbottom. Just 1 under for the day thus far, 6 under total, still sitting at tied 6th. And he makes one. And you could hear that ball hitting the bottom of the cup. So we've got a better view this time of where Martin's ball landed. Looks like he's got a pretty good lie, Ali.
It's not the worst place over there on the right. There's plenty of quite a flat collection area.
Oof.
You could see how the club face just dug straight in to the turf there, came in quite steeply. That's why it rolled out. A bit of topspin.
And as we've seen quite a bit today, Zach Rudd has been inside a lot of his playing partners. I'm presuming that might be a third, but if it's a second, it's a mighty good shot.
either way, he's doing pretty well. And his support of the game in WA and beyond is much appreciated. He's also a very nice character to have around. So back up the slope and up a little bit of a ridge here for Jared. Walking away with a 2-putt from here would probably do him, given how he's been playing the last couple of holes.
He's left himself with one of those again. He held one just a little longer than that on that last hole.
It's not a golf course you want to lose confidence in your long putting with as well.
So this is we talked about a tough finish, a long par 3 on the 17th. Plenty can happen here, 218 metres.
Yeah, presumably playing maybe around about 170, 180 today. Rules official, Scotty, as he's known, said that he was going to bump it up because it was, with that front hole location, just didn't really feel like anyone could hold it with a long club.
So good decision by the PGA officials. And that's the beauty of the design of this course. So you can change the strategy by where you put each tee. And obviously the pin placements as well. So Coroneo, yep. Gee, we're in sync then. The harmonies are coming together.
Pretty handy stuff.
This is for par. Oh, and a good save too. We saw him make a couple of that length yesterday. That'll keep him fired up. That's the first bit of emotion we've seen from him. So Andy Martin on the tee. And that is a ripper, a lovely shot.
He had to battle with around about the same length on the previous hole for par again for Jared Felton.
That one had an open face on it all the way, didn't it? So that's bogey. Take him to a couple over for his round today. Started with 67 and 68. Puts a pretty big gap between him and his playing partner now. Goes back to 7 under par. And Brodie Martin at 11. And this is the man who's currently in second position, Simon Hawkes.
And that was not what the doctor ordered, just scampering on through to a little bit of a higher level up there. Really want to try and be in the right part of the green.
So back.
That's Brady White.
Yeah, at the 18th.
He could have been there in 2 with 2 lofty blows. But I'll have to wait and confirm with scoring.
Well, the final group of the day about to head to the 16th hole. Plays 379 metres. And that's the one where you need a good tee shot, because we've got that 3 segmented green on the right and left, 2 higher levels. And when I watch Simon Hawkes play, I was going to say, he gives it away early. He gives he's putting away early a lot of times. He sort of quits on it early. He's already walking. He knows he's missed it, and I just wonder whether he's really got set, got his line and everything in play, because it's a couple of times today where he's already, the ball's not even halfway the hole, and he started on the walk to sort of hockey it in.
Yeah, it does make you question, you know, the investment in the shot sometimes when that happens.
Well, that looked to me like it was still, there was some leftover emotion from the pitch shot, as if to say, oh, well, I'm going to drop one here.
Daniel McGraw not happy with missing that one either.
He's one of the amateurs that's playing in the... Oh, and a nice putt too in the Road to the Outback Challenge. The amateur assigned to the pro, and they're playing a Stableford scoring system, so the best Stableford points between the two of them.
It's either Kevin Sullivan or Andrew Manton in this group. Little left-hand low action there. Nicely done. Oh, that's a big putt ahead.
It is, isn't it? Got a couple of them hidden in the garage. I've tried them, but as I said, they're hidden now. They're in the
not coming back.
dark corner. That was a few bucks wasted.
And he's up. So presumably at least one drop shot there for Simon Hawkes, and that might just extend Brodie Martin's lead a little bit. So there might be just a patch of daylight between our leader and the rest of the field at the moment.
So back to the 18th. And we think this is for a birdie.
It's a really difficult, hard green to read this with all of the slope, because a lot of it is counterintuitive on this green, and partly that's because the tip site that this golf course was actually built on is over by the driving range, and this is just tapering off the left-hand side of it up by the clubhouse, and so they used a lot of the natural slope, wanted to keep that on the 18th green. Graham Marsh also features a little bit, added some natural undulations, he said, to what was quite a flat piece of land when he first laid eyes on it.
Well, one of the best things you could say to an architect is that it doesn't look like it was a piece of flat land. It looks as though all of this was here. It's been beautifully crafted, this layout. And nicely holed. So a good round today from Theo Coroneo. Keeps himself at this point. We'll wait for final confirmation scores of the last couple of holes, but at tied 11th.
1 foot in, 1 foot out for Michael Long.
And he's going to have a long putt for par.
I see what you did there, Todd.
Yeah. Some of my best work. I guess with that work, I won't last long either.
Some of your last work, I think, yes.
Prime example of being short-sighted. And there's a great view of the 18th. You can see those 3 tiers. And as a guesstimate, 2.5 metres from the bottom to the top tier.
Using a surfing term, it's certainly at least double overhead.
Well, this is how things stand as we get to the closing stages of round 3. Brodie Martin with a 2-shot lead over the Tasmanian Simon Hawkes, and in third position Bassick and Wilson and Jared Felton, who was the overnight leader, all at 7 under par. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more from the WA PGA in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Damien Jordan from Coolangatta Tweedheads, and you're watching PGA TV.
Golf with my dad because sometimes he hits it in the water and once when he hit it, there was a rock in the river and then the ball hit the rock and then the rock bounced the ball over the water so it didn't go in, so it went in on the green. He was very lucky and he got a double bogey.
How many of us have played a hole like that young fella's dad before? I don't know if we're all that lucky, though, to get the bounce back. Little tap in there for Michael Long, and that's a bogey for him. Take him back to 5 under par. Just see a bit of wind getting up the top of the trees, starting to make it swirly. Tee box of the 18th, and quite a tight little tee shot, that one, Ali, that sits way back in the chute. Not many chutes in terms of the tee shots here, but you've got to be careful of some of the trees if you are like me and like to play with a bit of a large draw.
Andy Martin
drawing
that one into the hole. Ground draw.
2 in a row for him. 2 good long putts. A ground draw. That's not good. A ground draw off the tee is not good, let me tell you. But yeah, that 18th tee shot, as we take another distant look, is a difficult one, the way the tee box sets you up, because you need to try to keep it down the right side. Bit of trouble on the left.
Yeah, it's a real feature of this golf course as well. Graham Marsh, he's a cheeky man. He has set up a couple of the tees pointing toward the hazard, which was a trick that Donald Ross actually used to use quite a bit. You always needed to be really careful with your alignment on the tees on his golf courses.
And a much better approach shot from Jared Felton, so a chance for him to get one of those back that he's dropped in this back 9.
Yeah, late birdie would be really good for Jared. I think just finishing on a high note, but also just trying to get himself back into maybe that last, second to last group, if possible. If he throws a couple of birdies out, he can still be in the final group going into tomorrow, potentially, depending on how it all plays out with the amateurs, of course.
So here's Simon Hawkes on the tee at the 17th. And a good solid safe tee shot.
If you walk away with par on 17, usually pretty happy. Even with the tee up, you can see that it's hard to get it close.
Yeah, he's played the smart tee shot there, isn't it? If you get a bit too greedy and go for that pin, you end up in a situation like Michael Long. And this is an interesting stance. Oh, he's left it in there.
Jake's not going to like that.
And you can see there, it's he's not going to get in trouble there for lashing at the dirt the second time, because it's not a bunker. It's a waste area, and you can see how you can get lucky or unlucky with all of the little rocks that are in the surrounds there. So good tight picture of it.
Well, one of the hard things about desert golf is that the long bunker shot is probably the one shot you try and avoid, and you have it 20 more times in a week here than you do normally in a pro event. So something you usually use your course management to stay out of. It's unavoidable here in Kalgoorlie.
He's going to use... No, if he had it a little further up that slope, it would have come back and been closer, but a much better shot that time. This is a really intriguing hole, and come late tomorrow afternoon, anything can happen, because if you get out of position like he did there with that second shot, he's hit it into that waste area. All of a sudden, bogey comes into play. A little earlier today, we saw a couple of double bogeys. And from a par 5, which is, in some ways, if you played it conservatively as a 3-shotter, and you get a wedge number in your hand, you've got a pretty good birdie chance as well. So a lot of it comes down to strategy.
Yeah, one of the holes that Brodie Martin actually made an eagle on as well at the start of the week in round 1. So plenty of scoring opportunities and also some trouble.
Needs to settle. That's our host this week, getting ready to line his ball up for a putt, the CEO of TX Civil and Logistics. There's Zach Rad, who's been playing some good golf himself today. Perfect format for amateurs, this one, because you can have some birdies, you can have some moments out there, and then it doesn't matter when you hit the bad one, you just pick it up, put it in your pocket. So in terms of this round, this becomes a very important part, because as you mentioned, you could set up a nice bit of placement for tomorrow and give the attitude a nice little bit of encouragement, but it's turned left.
Probably the best record out of anyone here this week on this golf course. Jared Felton, 9th, 8th, 10th and 5th. In the last 4 years. He's been in contention a lot. He's really struggling at the moment to keep himself in check.
So I'm going to go and say I think this one is for par. I think we saw him get in that hazard for 2. He left it in there. Seen that one. I was out watching this hole a little earlier, and everybody from that side is missing on the right. They're not seeing it move that way. They're feeling that it's going to go with the slope that you talked about. So a bit of homework in the practice rounds. I'll put that in your little black book for when you get back here next year.
You have to spend 3 hours mapping this green.
Yeah.
It's that large.
See Josh Younger try and finish off his round. You travel with a little black book, I mean, for all your golf courses and stats, Ali?
Certainly, yeah. Well, you take all of your previous yardage books with you each week. And a nice one there from Josh Younger. And I think just writing down, there's a couple of putts, usually about 3 putts on every green, that might fool you. And I actually didn't write a lot, but I wrote down the putts that I got wrong, because I know that next time I'm going to get them wrong again. Yeah. So try not to do that twice.
So a couple more to go for the leading group. And this is for bogey. Oh, in fact, our graphics say that's for double bogey. We'll get confirmation in a moment. So I mentioned that this par 5 finishing hole can grab you. Ali, at the end of the afternoon here, when we were out watching yesterday afternoon, as the grass does plenty of growing, gets a little bit bumpy and tough to make putts as you get into these closing stages.
Yeah, especially when they're a little bit wet as well underfoot. As we take a look at the leaderboard, so there is a little room at the top still, a little breathing space for the West Australian, but really it's still going to be presumably all up for grabs again tomorrow. We're starting a little earlier tomorrow as well. We tee off here with our coverage at 10 a.m. Given that it's dark at 5:15. Sunset's at I think at 5:09, and it's jet black by 5:15. So we're moving forward, and we'll keep it in the blue skies.
And that's how it stands right now. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Peter Lunnard.
I'm Aaron Townsend.
I'm Dave Branston. I'm from Sale Golf Club and you're watching PGA TV.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Day. Welcome to My Golf, the first step for kids to learn the game. You'll have an awesome time picking up the basics with your mates. Golf is fun, easy to learn, and a great way to meet new friends. Have a great time and I'll see you out in the golf course.
My name's Isaac Riches. One day I'm playing golf all around the world, just like Jason Day.
Okay, this is the final group with the tee shots on 17. Brodie Martin. We know where to leave it. The centre of the green, putt towards that pin. This one looks as if it's going a little left. And he's got a bit of work to do. That's going to be a difficult up and down. Let's take a look at it from the air, if you like.
Yeah, not too many holes on this golf course where you want to play away from the hole and leave it in the centre of the green just because of the undulation. Usually you kind of want to go in the section where the pin is, but today the pin is 9 paces on and just 5 off the left, so really bringing that left-hand front bunker into play as we saw earlier with Michael Long, but plenty of bailout there, short, right, and a pretty relatively straightforward pitch back up the green.
And Jared Felton now. Well, that's the best that we've seen today. That's a superb shot from Felton.
And that's sat down quickly. We've seen a lot of high bounces and rollouts on 17.
Now, there's a bit of a laugh there. I wonder whether he really meant to take it that close to the pin.
The old pull on line. It's when you just pretend that you meant it, Jared.
And how good was that flyover picture? That's where we can show you how beautiful this course is and the colours of the red earth here of the outback of Western Australia. So Andrew Martin with a wedge in hand into this final pin. We talked about the visuals of the red and the greens off the tee, but one of the interesting parts about this final hole is when you stand back in the fairway, because there's a lot of different levels to this green, there's a few blind shots, and actually getting that number on your wedge to be exact is quite difficult as well. There's a couple of guys really coming up short.
If you're in the middle of the fairway with your third shot, and Michael Long's over on the right-hand side here, so has a little bit of a better look at the green. But if you're in the middle, you can't actually see much of the putting surface at all.
No, you're really just seeing the top of the flag, aren't you?
And sometimes the flag doesn't even look like it's on the green, like I'm presuming it would out there today, tucked all the way in that back right corner.
Well, we'll anticipate we're going to see the pin up the top tier tomorrow. We saw it in the middle yesterday, and that middle shot yesterday, it was really sort of hard to know what level it was on. It was an intriguing shot. I mean, you have your pin placements, of course, but if you're standing out in the fairway, it was a visually difficult piece to get through. So here's our leader trying to summarise how he wants to play this shot, visualise even. Maybe he's visualising. You go.
I'm gonna sub you out right now. But no, it was nice hearing Kerrod, who was in earlier, talk about the process and what these pros are thinking when they're walking around. They're not wasting time. Go. And that wasn't his best. His left hand broke down a little bit there and had his knuckles to the ground, which will always bring the leading edge into play, so presumably just caught a bit too much grass there for Brodie, and a real tester coming up.
Yeah, well, just out of position altogether, really, wasn't he? So there's a likelihood here of Martin dropping one for Jared Felton. Picking one up would bring the gap from 5 to 3 between the last two players out on course.
One of the things I really love about the PGAs and the state PGA championships is the idea of having the trainee pros in as part of the field as well. I think it's really important to kind of acknowledge the people that are growing the game, but also trying to just look at golf from a slightly different perspective, because they do have a day job and it's not necessarily playing on tour. But great to see Brodie at the top being competitive.
So here's that par save. He's going to come over the edge of that bunker. So this is going to have a bit of double break action in it. Oh, lucky to catch the hole. He's left himself with work for bogey now. So this is an interesting time. We talked about the last couple of holes in Ali and how they can change things. Come tomorrow, final round. This hole's going to be a pivotal one. You mentioned get your three and get out of there. And it's looking more and more like that this afternoon even.
Well, we talk about the finish in golf and the potential shot swings, but even we've seen a double bogey on 18, we've seen eagles on 18 already, so there's 4 shots. And anything around par on 17 is a good score.
We've seen this putt already today. It's a slower putt than most players are reading, and once again, Andy Martin comes up short. Michael Long doing some homework on this birdie opportunity. He's filled me in with a pretty impressive stat about Michael Long a little earlier today before we came on air.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been around for a little while, but he's one of the only men ever to win every single New Zealand Golf Association title. And then I believe he went on to win the New Zealand Open on top of that. So just to add to, all of his accolades, he doesn't have much room. He's got a lot of silver ferns probably on the mantelpiece.
What if he travels with any of them? So after bogeying the last, would have been good to finish with birdie. Doesn't, but very comfortable tap in to finish with a par.
This is huge for Jared.
Yep.
Another chance at birdie coming down the stretch.
Well, he's put a good positive firm stroke on this one. And he does. Well done. Yeah. Well, this is good signs for him though. It hasn't been the day that he'd hoped for, but he's turning it into something a little more positive to finish, and that will put him in good stead for tomorrow. Yeah, if he can birdie the last, he gets it back to what is it, an even par round?
Yeah, and it'd be a 2-shot deficit, but that all depends on this as well from Brodie Martin. It's going to be at least 1 drop shot.
Well done. So fortunate in the end there to walk away with bogey, because had that that approach putt, if you like, not hit the hole, he was going to be another metre past where he was.
You've got to be lucky to win a golf event. Get the good breaks.
Just to clean up. And a 3-putt finish, if you like, from off the front edge, but that will be a fuming Andy Martin who leaves the 18th green.
Yeah, I think he's ready to get out of there.
And the frustrating part is you just can't charge off either. You've got to take your buggy with you. Here, no caddy for Andy Martin this week.
And do your scorecard as well. Just what you want. Relive every moment.
So closing stages here at the Kalgoorlie Golf Club. Let's take a look at how things stand with that bogey. Brodie Martin drops 1 to 10 under. Simon Hawkes now just 1 behind. Jared Felton, he edges closer, just a 2-shot gap as we take a very quick break, and we'll be back for the final group as they play the 18th hole.
Hi there, I'm Steve Jeffrey from Southport.
I'm Matt Griffin from Victoria Golf Club, and I hope you're enjoying
PGA TV.
one day maybe I'd like to be a professional golfer. So when I'm older, I'd like a house on the golf course. It'd be fun, I could just walk and play and then just go back home, relax and then go again.
Well, we're in Kalgoorlie, the Kalgoorlie Golf Club, and it is magnificent. It's about 600 kilometres just east-northeast of Perth, right at the end of the Great Eastern Highway. And if you do get to this part of the world and you're a golfer, you've got to come and play here because it is magnificent. And right now, I've got a special guest, Braden Becker. Welcome to the booth.
Thank you.
Going really well, mate. Yep. Sitting in the top 10. A terrific day today. A couple of good rounds. Round 2, round 3. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I just got off to a nice, solid start. Hit a good shot into the first. Just made a par, and then made a good clutch birdie on the second hole to sort of get under par early. So that's always handy, especially for me. I tend to get off to a pretty rough start and then save it after that, but luckily didn't need that today, which was great. Got on the 6th hole, the par 5, and unfortunately hit it my second shot into the rocks, into the gravel, and knifed one over the back into the bunker, chipped it to the front of the green, and then luckily held about a 15-foot putt coming back for bogey. So it was a good bogey save and sort of steadied the ship a little bit on the next with a birdie. So,
and then on the back 9, it was completely solid.
Yeah, then it was real good. Made a good birdie again on the par 5, 11th, and then a couple of good par saves just to get it going, 14, 15, and then then unfortunately left one in the hard on 16 and birdied 17. So that was a good little putt down across the slope.
Ooh, 17 is a real good birdie. We just see the tee shots here of Jared Felton after making birdie. Tough tee shot, this one. How do you like it visually? We've been talking about the trees that come into play just off the tee.
Yeah, I generally like seeing my ball sort of moving a little left to right, so the wind coming sort of into off the right. It's actually quite a nice wind for me personally. I know Jared likes to move it a little bit right to left, so probably a little testy one, and Brody likes to hit it left to right here, so he should be pretty well set on this.
Edging its way right.
Yep, down the right side.
This is going to catch the fairway. Just stay
that's
there.
go zone right there. That's it's sitting half decent. He's got a very good angle to that with Bree sort of straight into it a little bit.
So where would you aim to leave it here? We've just seen a couple of interesting positional shots where balls have been in that well, you can call it a hazard if you like.
Yeah. I think obviously if you've got the length to get back there, like it's quite a long way back to that pin. The green's very long, so I personally tried to hit it out into that little open area, just short right, about 40-50 meters short, and come in from the right hand side of the of the green there and kind of across the slope. Even yesterday with that middle pin, I think to the back pin or that middle pin, it's not a bad leave. To the front pin, it's probably a different play, but yeah, definitely. If you don't quite have the legs to get there, then a short layup down short right's pretty good.
There aren't many snackable holes on this golf course, really, are there? I mean, there's a couple on the front 9 that were designed, 2 through, say, 5 or 6 that were designed as the real scoring holes, but they haven't been in our rotation today. 11, maybe, if it's reachable in 2 most days, and you made birdie there, that's a real opportunity, but one of the few opportunities that you have on the back 9.
Yeah, the thing is playing quite tricky with those few scoreable holes is the wind's completely from the other direction to what we normally go. Obviously, we've got an easterly breeze this week, and it seems to be going to be like that again tomorrow. We normally play like those holes, like the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th back into the wind, which obviously are playing quite short. But then the scoreable holes, like 3, 7, even 9, they normally play really short, where you're hitting driver just a flick lob wedge in there. And unfortunately this week with the wind back into our faces, we're hitting sort of full 7 iron, 8 irons into some of those short par 4s that so you just have to take advantage of the holes that you do happen to hit a good shot in there, and hopefully try and make a birdie on a hole that you don't that you wouldn't normally.
From a course management perspective, with the greens that are divided into say 3 or 4 sections sometimes, how hard is it to pull the trigger on convincing yourself to be aggressive sometimes and conservative others? When do you know if you've got wedge in hand, going for some of the tiny little tiers, like yesterday on 16, it was over on that right hand side. It's tough to know when to pull the trigger on it.
I think that just comes back to the individual guys and how confident they are with the yardages that they've got. Obviously, that pin on the right on 16 that you're talking about, like, it was a pretty good number for me yesterday, and I hit a really good shot, just caught it a little bit downwind, and it obviously just caught it quite clean, so I had a lot of spin and just sort of held in the air and actually, one skipped over the back of the green, but I wasn't unhappy with the shot. It wasn't a great leave. I got it up and down, which is pretty good, but to try and hit those little portions of the green, you just got to be careful a little bit, maybe traffic light the greens a little bit. It's going, okay, that, it's a bit of a red light pin. Don't, play a little safer to that one. But obviously doing that, like you said, you've got to sort of acknowledge the fact that you might have to putt it up a tier and back your putting to be able to, it's just save par, and then hopefully you can hit one in close on the next hole to take advantage of that. Yeah.
Well, you put yourself in good position, tied 7th at the moment, 6 under par, and that has you just 4 behind at this point if Brodie doesn't birdie the last, and it gives you an opportunity to get out there and gun it a bit tomorrow and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming from from a few shots back is quite doable. Obviously 4 back at the moment, but Brodie's a really good player. He's playing with a lot of confidence and a lot of skill at the moment. He's playing really well. So
we've got him here right now live to take on that second shot, see whether he can leave it in that area that you spoke about.
I assume he'll be trying to get this up on the green. Oh, lost it right, I think.
So now we see whether he leaves it in that hazard waste area.
Yeah, so
that's pretty good, isn't it?
Down in the spot where I was talking about.
Bad shot there.
Yeah, it's a good miss. It's a good leave. And it's a really good chance to sort of chip one in close. Give himself a chance at making birdie.
He's hit a couple of those today, actually.
Yep.
I think on 11 he gave a look like that too and ended up making eagle. So beware of the Brodie.
Over.
Beware of Brodie when he gives you the look like he doesn't like it.
Yeah. He obviously I played a fair bit with him through my traineeship, and he's very much a confidence player. If he gets on a run, look out. But he can flip the switch pretty quick and go cold if he has a couple of bad holes. But he never stops trying, which is probably his biggest asset. And I think at the moment he just believes he can get it done. So it's a dangerous mix.
That's Jared Felton just. I think looking at what might have happened. I don't know if he's about to walk up. He's laid up. I don't think he's hit his third. I think that was one of the
amateurs.
Yeah, I think so. I think it could have been the boss, your boss, Gavin Kirkman.
Well, we saw him in the background doing a bit of gardening over on the right-hand side, maybe a couple of branches.
I hope he didn't move his ball. Looks like he's played it, and that was the ball that we saw come in and across. So it. He didn't get that one close. He's got still a bit of work to do to get his par here on the last. Well, we're hearing he hasn't played his third, so he's going up to assess landing areas, I guess, Ali.
Well, he can't see anything at all from where he is. This is the part of
that was what we were talking about, wasn't it? Yeah.
That we discussed earlier, because if you're over on the right-hand side where Brodie is now, you can actually see the majority of the putting, the putting surface from that angle, but from where Jared is, which in theory is a perfect layup, to the centre of the centre of the fairway, but you can see he just can't see anything.
Braden, is he got to pitch this all the way to the pin? I mean, if he doesn't and he lands it on that big slope there, he's.
I think if he pitches it in the middle tier, it should run down, as long as it doesn't grab too much, depending on what sort of angle he's coming. But it's probably not a bad play, because if it does get running down that tier, it generally runs pretty close to that pin. The little back of the lip on the bunker sort of stops it near the hole, which is going to work to his advantage here.
Now, just a moment ago, we saw Simon Hawkes putt out to finish his round for a 2 under, round of 70, and finish at 9 under par.
Yeah, he's been playing really well, Simon. He's obviously coming off the back of that Vic Open win, and he's played a couple of the Pro-Ams, over in Joondalup, Hartfield, and Cottesloe Open, and he's played really solid through those events. So he's obviously playing very good as well. It's good to see.
Well, Jared's been fooling us because he came from a completely different area to look at it. He's actually got a pretty good line of sight.
He was hidden to us.
Can he give himself 3 real chances at birdie in a row?
It's a very good shot. Yep. His putt should be pretty straight, maybe moving a little bit to his right.
Yep. And from what we've seen this afternoon, Braden just got to keep his speed up a little too.
Yeah.
Because that coming from that direction's a little slower.
It's quite slow. It's a bit wet. There's a little moist area just on the edge of the green in front of where Brodie's coming from now. So he sort of has to try and fly that, but then stop it. Should be bread and butter.
Dug that in.
Oh, God, unlucky hitting the ball there. Should have got him to mark it.
Well, there's quite a bit of debate about that going on.
Don't do it.
Oh, gosh.
He's not happy.
Oh, now we got the boss. Our Civil Logistics, Zach Rard. Yeah, well played. Well played to the man with the money.
Now you got it. You know what you're doing, don't you?
All right, talk us through this one then, Braden.
He's got a little bit up.
This is your other boss.
A little bit off the left. Yeah, this is my other boss.
This is the one that makes sure you get
pretty
the money.
hard left on the green. Hit the pin. Oh, missed it.
He's playing with a half set today. He told me, Gavin Kirkman we're talking about, the boss here at the ISPS Honda PGA Tour of Australasia, and he usually plays with odds. But this week, he decided to play with evens. He's got a tiny little bag.
I think around this course, I prefer a 3-iron over a 4-iron some holes. Quite long.
I think I'd rather 2 sets than half a set as well.
Yeah.
Get me a chipper. Stat.
Yeah. I saw that he had to pull his own bag as well. What's up with that?
I know.
I would have thought he'd be first person to get a cutty on the bag.
So if I go one club length from there and then put it back to the same spot, if I want.
They're just deciding whether Jared needs to put his ball back to where it was and then he can move it, or if he's just going to leave it where it is and let Brodie putt first and then replace his ball back to where it was.
Well, really important part again. We keep saying it, but these last couple of holes for him have been are going to be really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to finish on a high note. And speaking of high notes, Braden, I have to ask you that apparently there's a social media video of you going around with some of the tee markers this week that your partner Hayley might have actually posted. Your partner Hayley, a very good golfer in her own right, actually holds the record, I believe, for the lowest for the Nullarbor links.
Yeah, it was. We just did that trip. We finished it 4 weeks ago. We were just here, and the course was unbelievable. Obviously, it's awesome now, yeah, it was great. We really enjoyed the trip. Drove over. Took us 4 days to complete. Yeah, Hayley played really good, and yeah, we both played pretty well. I finished level par and got trumped.
So here is
Zach,
our sponsor.
Bang! Got it. Well played.
We're going to send that to him in a very important highlights package and make sure he's back next year.
Absolutely.
Our editors are working on it as we speak.
Yeah,
Lots of highlights.
He's a fantastic man for golf in WA. He sponsors, a couple